Yep, seems to be working. And yep, there we go. Yep, seems to be working. And yep, there we go. Yep, seems to be working. Yeah, there we go. Yep, seems to be working. Let me check if anyone is watching. Okay, yeah, this might be a bit hard, but let's see if we can figure it out. Yeah, I think we're gonna wait for some people to actually ask something. But yeah, I guess just waiting for people to come in, and as soon as someone comments, I will start talking. Yeah, it's kind of hard, man. We should do that on Instagram. And now we have one viewer. This makes no sense. There's also some lag too. Huh. Okay, we have hands. The link for the people can try to go in. I guess I know it's publicly shown, but I don't think I will be able to accept people. I mean, people can try. I don't mind people coming into the Google Meets call. It's not a problem. I also don't know who TC is. I think I'm just gonna talk, man. Yeah, where do I start? I think the first thing I need to talk about is I think that we definitely need to give some respect for everyone who did not make it, because I think that there are amazing teams that did not make it into the quarters and semis. Quarters and semis actually. So I think that some respect for these teams are very much needed, because I think that teams like, okay, so let's talk about it. So it's Kepulauan Riau, definitely good team, but lost to NTB in the octofinals, which actually happens a lot at NSDC, and I don't know why. It's a very specific problem to NSDC, in which a lot of good teams don't make it out of octofinals, and that situation, it's like you don't know why, and it is just a matter of upsets always seem to happen at NSDC. And this year was not different in any way, and so we saw the upset of Kepulauan Riau, who made a great preliminary run, who beat out all the other teams who were favorites and managed to get to the top two teams in round 5. Then we have Lampung, who was a semi-finalist last year, which is damn near amazing, and they also in this year broke 4th, but then lost out to Riau in the octofinals, right? And so yeah, I think that in the octofinals, those were the two biggest upsets. But in the quarters, we also saw the teams like Bali, for example. We saw Bali lose out to Jakarta, which a damn near good fight, which is a 3-2 split. We saw teams like who else lost? Wait, give me a sec. Who else lost in this team? Quarterfinals. yeah, we saw teams like Jawa Timur lose. We saw Sulawesi Selatan lose. I think it's the biggest thing is Bali and Jawa Timur. And the reason I say that is because I never wanted to mention this on Twitter, and I think that a lot of people aren't watching this, so it's entirely fine for me to say. But I think that specifically for Jawa Timur, there is definitely that one debater who has been working really hard, who is definitely known throughout the debating community as someone who does work hard, and it just feels, yeah, it's just a storyline that I didn't want to see end that quickly, but I think that they definitely deserve the respect, and I think that they definitely made a great run towards quarterfinals, and I just wish that they could have gone further, right? Yeah, but Bali as well. Bali, I think they have a great team. I think that I went against them in our Asians, but I think that they did a great run in 2000 throughout. Oh my God! There's NUDC NSDC official. Yeah, they made a great run throughout the whole tournament. Where am I getting at? So I just think that essentially they had a great run. They did a great thing. And I think that those teams that lost out are in no way lesser towards the teams that do make it, right? But I think that now we need to talk about the semis. And the way we want to talk about the semi is that I think that let's talk about possibilities first, right? So there's 4 teams, one of which is, 3 teams are teams that have won over the past 3 years. They have been the juggernauts of the debating community, especially in terms of province. They have the resources, they have the alumni. These teams were set up for success, right? Not to say that they didn't work hard, but I think that they definitely are teams that come from legacies and teams that have this huge history in terms of their province, right? So those are the 3 teams. We know those teams. We know DIY, we know Banten, we know Jakarta. But there is one team who a lot of people honestly probably didn't expect to get into the semifinals, and that is NTB. And I think we damn near need to applaud for them because no one saw NTB coming into this tournament as a favorite, right? No one had NTB on the cards, and that isn't NTB's fault. Naturally, doesn't mean that they're a bad team in any way, right? But it's just simply the matter of exposure. Immediately accustoms people to believing that the best teams are the teams that come to the tournaments, right? So I think the first takeaway from the semi is that there are really good teams out there, and they might not be the teams that you are expecting, but they are teams that do exist, and I think that definitely needs to be appreciated. Let me just show the NSDC matchup anyway, right? It's so much easier. So yeah, I think that that's the first takeaway from this amazing and weirdly odd NSDC is that there is this one team that broke all the barriers. This one team who worked hard, and I can't imagine how hard they worked in order to be able to get to this point, right? And so that's why seeing NTB break, not only so they don't only make it semifinals just because they're good, right? I think I think there are a lot of times where you can argue that a team, they had an easy matchup, right? But that's not the case with NTB. NTB literally had to go up against one of the best teams in the tournament, which was, Kepulauan Riau themselves, right? And Kepulauan Riau is a damn solid team. I watched the stream, I watched the match, and I think that they're a very strong team. The fact that NTB was able to, to succeed over Riau definitely points out that they are a team that deserves to be in the semifinals, right? And so NTB's storyline is very obvious. They're the underdog. They're the team that no one expected, but they are still here. They are still in the semis, and they're definitely going to show a performance that, hopefully they show a performance that shows that they do deserve to be at the top 4 of this tournament, right? So that's NTB's storyline. Now let's talk about their opponent, because their opponent has an equally interesting story, right? Jakarta is a team that people knew was dominant when they were coming into the tournament, right? People knew that Jakarta was going to be the team that was the favorite. They knew that Jakarta was going to be the team to beat, right? And so DKI Jakarta had a perfect run in prelims. They won 5 matches, right? Which is, they haven't submitted feedback. It's a probably silent round anyway, so that's fine. But yeah, they had an amazing round. They broke in the tournament, let me show you the break real quick. They broke the tournament with the highest peaks, and that is not only a highest peak, that is a shamefully high amount of speaks compared to every other team within. It's a gap of nearly 20 from the nearest team, which is 1246 compared to 1265, right? It's not even close. And so DKI Jakarta is the one that people are going to say are the favorites, right? They are the one that people are going to believe they are going to win the tournament, right? But NSDC is not only about those who are the favorites, right? Because the favorites come in every single year, and just because they're the favorites doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to win the tournament. The only time when I can remember that the favorites of a tournament actually ended up winning the entire tournament, the only time I can actually remember that was in the case of Yogyakarta in 2017, when they won, they swept the prelims, they got perfect score, but they also managed to win all elimination rounds, and I think that they did that in a pretty dominant fashion. Maybe save for the finals in which they split. But yeah, Yogyakarta was the only example. But other than that, I think that favorites aren't the initial favorites aren't always the one who end up winning the tournament. And so yeah, here we see that Jakarta does come in with this huge repertoire. They have this huge amount of track record, they have the resources, they have the coaches, they have the team, they have what it takes to win, right? But NTB is up against them, and I don't know what's going to happen there. And like the saying goes, which a saying that I made up, is that NSDC is where literally anything can happen, right? Yeah, so I have no idea what's going to happen, because I really want to see the match tomorrow between Jakarta and NTB, because NTB is someone who's proven that they can take down huge teams. And Jakarta, I mean that they're good, but consider the fact that Jakarta also split in a very close debate towards Bali in the quarterfinal. It shows that they're good, but they aren't unbeatable. And so therefore there is this slight chance that we might see something unexpected, right? Hopefully not, for those of you who are fans of Jakarta, but you never know, and we might see something unexpected tomorrow. And so that's the storyline for those two teams, right? For Jakarta and NTB, those two teams are that's going to be very interesting matchup to watch tomorrow, right? Now, let's go to the other matchup of the semi, because that is also a very equally interesting matchup. And the reason why the matchup between Banten and Yogyakarta is so interesting is because there's history. Banten is one of the teams that has won the most amount of NSDCs in the past few years. But at the same time, Yogyakarta is also a team that has won an insane amount of NSDCs in the past few years. I think actually, if we count it from 2015, then Banten has won 2 NSDCs, and Yogyakarta has also won 2 NSDCs, right? Because Yogyakarta won in 2015, 2017, and Banten won in 2016 and 2018, right? So the only year that was missing was 2019, in which Jakarta won. And so there's two teams that have this huge history of winning. Like, these two teams have dominated the past 5 years, right? They've shared 4 wins. Like, combined, they have 4 wins within the past 5 years alone. And so both of these teams have the repertoire, and they have this huge amount of proof that they can win, right? So this is an entirely different kind of matchup from NTB versus Jakarta, right? Because that might be a David versus Goliath, not necessarily because NTB is bad, but because that they know it's the unexpected versus the expected champion, right? So that's that kind of matchup. But it's entirely different when you're talking about Banten and Yogyakarta, because those two teams are teams that have established history. Those two teams are teams that people know to win, that people have seen win. And people know that they have the capability and the resources and the coaches in order to be able to win, right? And so Banten versus Jakarta is going to be a very interesting matchup, solely because it's the meeting of these two titans. It's the meeting of these two titans, and it's going to show who is the true well, like there's not really any rivalry between provinces, but who is, if we had to compare provinces, who would then be the best province in terms of the last 4 years themselves, right? So that's the matchup we have for tomorrow, in which Yogyakarta goes against Banten. Now, I think it'd be very interesting if you want to go. Let's go take a look at the history within these prelims, because I think both teams have an interesting track record in terms of the preliminary round. Let's look at Yogyakarta first, right? So Yogyakarta, they win 4 rounds. They lose out to NTB, who is also a semi-finalist. So these teams, so Yogyakarta they've shown that they're strong against almost every other team, but they have dropped around to a team that is also in a semifinalist, right? I think if anything, this strengthens NTB's position going into the semifinals, because they've shown that they can take down not only one of the top 2 teams up to round 5, but they also shown that they can take down Yogyakarta, who is third in the tournament. And so Yogyakarta has lost once, but they came back and they broke third, which probably is a good indication of their speaks, right? So that's Yogyakarta's that's Yogyakarta's stance. But now let's talk about Banten, because Banten has an equally interesting history. And I think the most interesting thing about Banten is the fact that they lost in 1, right? They lost in the round 0, and that was, I think, one of the most surprising things before the tournament started, because it was very shocking to see that that Banten had lost within that round. But yeah, going to their history, what we saw in terms of their prelims is that they lost to Capri, and that is a testament towards their quality. I mean, they didn't drop any other team. In fact, they actually won versus NTB. I just realized this. They won against NTB. So they have proven that they can beat some of the best teams, right? So yeah, it's actually a very interesting matchup, because on one hand you have a team that has been able to win against NTB, and the other side you have Yogyakarta, who has not been able to win against NTB themselves. And so you have these 2 teams, and you are going to have this matchup. Both teams have been able to prove themselves in competitions before NSDC. I think that both teams were in the semifinals of AU Open, AU Asians, whatever you call it. Yeah, they were in the semifinals of that, so they've proven themselves. And now it's just a matter of who is going to be the one to dominate and show that they deserve to be in the finals, right? So that's Banten. And that's the lineup for tomorrow's semis. And I think it's very interesting no matter who gets into the finals, right? Because if it's, I don't know, let's say if Jakarta wins the David versus Goliath and they get into the finals and they meet either Yogyakarta or Banten, that's a very interesting matchup, because these are the top 3 teams of the tournament, and they are going to have a debate, hopefully that's very good and does not end up in a complete stomp, right? If NTB wins and they go into the finals, right, it is going to be a very good thing, and it's going to be a very amazing thing, not only talking about continuing the trend of NUDC where you have these huge upsets, but also simply talking about the fact that having having this NTB reaching the finals for the first time in their history would be such an amazing achievement in itself, right? Not to say that it's already an amazing achievement that they made it to semifinals, and I applaud them for that. But imagine if they made it to finals, what kind of storyline that would be, right? So that's an amazing thing in itself. Yogyakarta and Banten, going to be a heated matchup. Both of them want to get the finals. Both of them want to prove that they're the best in the tournament. Well, they want to prove that they're the best high school debaters. And so they both also want to carry out the legacy of their previous seniors and alumni. And so that is going to be the matchup, right? I think both semis are going to be a very interesting matchup, right? I think these semis, like in any tournament, the semis is where you see the best debates. Because when you're in finals, everyone's like, well, we're already in finals. We're already going to get a trophy. I'm not saying that people aren't motivated to win, but there's a certain dynamic that changes, because you feel like not everything is on the line because you've already made it to finals. A lot of the time, it's not as interesting as the semifinals, right? But when you're in semifinals, when you're trying to fight for that position in the finals, that's when the best debates come out. This is when people pull out all the stops. This is when they're going to prove their worth prove how good they are as debaters, right? I think a lot of the time what happens during semis is that debaters surprise themselves with how good they can be. And so yeah, this has gone on for 20 minutes. This is freaking crazy. I did not expect to speak for this long. But yeah, that is the matchup for tomorrow. That is the matchup that you're going to want to see. You can either choose to see a match between a small warrior and a debate, empire, right? You want to see, if you want to see a small, if you want to see a small institution, essentially, right? This province has had very little prior track record, right? If you want to see that kind of matchup, then you go to the room with NTB and Jakarta and you watch that matchup, right? But on the other hand, if you want to watch two teams with a lot of history, with a lot of legacy, and you want to see them square off in the semifinals, then you go to the other room and you watch Banten and you watch Yogyakarta, right? I think wherever you end up, it's going to be a very good debate. Wherever you end up, it's going to be a very fun debate. And so no matter what you do tomorrow, even if you don't watch, I hope that these are going to be very legendary debates that other people can watch, other high school kids can watch, and they're going to be very surprised at the quality of this debate. I'm very excited, I'm very pumped for the debates tomorrow, right? Okay, this has gone very long. Thank you for everyone, the 9 concurrent viewers. I'm actually one of them, so it doesn't count. So like 8 concurrent viewers who have been continuously watching. But yeah, that is mainly the discussion I have. I think that one short thing before I end this stream or this podcast or whatever you guys want to call it, I don't really know. I'm going to talk a little bit about, let's talk about predictions for best speaker, because that's the only thing I can do with this limited amount of time. So obviously Jakarta, top 3, they're gonna make it, right? All 3 have enough score. If you want to divide that by 5 rounds, that is still a gap of 4 there. So I think that Jakarta has a very good chance of entering the top, all 3 entering the top 15 or even top 10. So Jakarta is in there. Banten, right? With this kind of score, I'm not entirely sure. It could be that all speakers get in, or it may just be that 2 speakers get in. I'm not entirely sure there. But yeah, let's hopefully all 3 get in. Yogyakarta, again, not entirely sure if all 3, right? And this is just something natural that happens at NSDC, in which you have 2 speakers that are very shining, and sometimes that comes at the cost of the other speaker not being able to enter the top 15, right? That's just the reality. But if Yogyakarta gets in, then Lampung should also get in. But let's not take into account, let's not forget that there's also Bali, who has 1,229, and I think that they have equal chance of entering the top 15, right? And then from these 4 teams here, I think there's going to be a smattering of people entering, right? Maybe, hopefully 2, but more likely than not, maybe 1 speaker. I think Kepulauan Riau has a good chance of having 2 speakers, and I think they have 2 speakers that are quite good, and I think that they have a good chance of being able to have 2 speakers enter the top 15. Jawa Tengah is also, sorry, I completely missed that. Jawa Tengah has the same amount of speaker scores as the Yogyakarta, so I think that they could also have top. Okay, let's actually count this, right? So this is top 3. So that leaves 12 spot left. Let's say best case scenario, Banten has 3 speakers entering the top 15, right? So that's 6. Now Yogyakarta, let's put them at 2, right? So that's 8. And then Lampung, if we assume equal, since their scores aren't that different, they would also have 2. So that's 10. You have now 5 spots left. Jawa Tengah, 1, 2, 3, 8. So that's 2, right? That's 100. That's 13. And now you have 3 spots left. From those 3 spots, it could either be Kepulauan Riau has 1, Jawa Timur has 1. It could be Kepulauan Riau has 1 or 2. And then Bali has, Kaltim has a lot. I don't know. It's very tight between these 3. Like, the speakers in Kepulauan Riau should be able to enter, assuming that other teams don't have all 3 or all 2 speakers enter the top 15. So I think the only ones guaranteed top 3 are only DKI Jakarta at this point. Banten should also have it secured. They should also have 3 speakers in there, but it also might be 2. And everyone else is going to be fighting to have at least 1 speaker in that top 15 to have that chance. I don't even know if WSGC is selecting through this, but I think that they would need to, if they were lucky, they would need to have they would at least get one in the top 15. Yeah. So yeah, I think that is it. Yeah, I have no idea else what else to talk about. I think yeah. Let me just close with, if anyone listening to this is actually, if you guys joined WSDC, I have no idea why you would be listening to this if you joined WSDC and you didn't make it, because I would not be doing that if I were you. But if you are, I just want to tell you that I think that no matter how you did, always remember that NSDC isn't everything. I think that especially, you see that especially in varsity, because people who are successful at NSDC don't always have a successful debate career, and that is entirely fine. Because if you're really passionate about debate, then NSDC is just another stepping stone, right? It is not the end all be all. It is not like if you succeed at NSDC, you're immediately a debate god, right? It doesn't really matter. If you really like debate for the sake of debate, then you will find other opportunities regardless, right? So even if you didn't achieve your initial goal at NSDC, I think chin up. I think that it's okay to take time off for whatever you may be feeling right now, but I think ultimately you realize in the end that you will be fine, and there will be other opportunities, there will be other debate competitions, and NSDC is just one of many, and soon you will forget everything about NSDC and it will just become this kind of memory that you remember. Yeah. So I think that if you are listening to this, if anyone here is joined the NSDC, I think give yourself a pat on the back. I think you had an amazing run. It was very fun to watch the whole tournament, and thank you for being a part of that. But yeah, I think that that's basically it for me. And I hope that tomorrow we can have a little bit of a discussion after the finals. But yeah, thank you everyone for watching. If you are watching, I don't even know if the statistics are real. It says 19, sometimes says 20, sometimes changes. But yeah, that's basically it for me. Thank you very much, and I will end the stream now.